Man, I don't know what I'm looking forward to more, if it is that Thanksgiving feast that's coming this Thursday, a full slate of NFL games, or it's this glorious weekend that we have in front of us. Ohio State against that team up north, the Browns against that team to the east, the Piñatas of the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Eric, I think we're going to go to you first with this first question. It is quite a battle. There isn't a conflict, but we'll be able to watch both of these games. But if you had to pick, if your significant other said we can only watch one of those games this weekend, Ohio State against the team up north versus or the Browns and the Steelers, which of those two games are you going to pick?
Well, I think if I had to choose one, fortunately, I'm in a good relationship where I get both. But if I had to pick one, it's the Ohio State team up north game. The Browns basically have 5 games remaining of their season. They need a ton to go right for them to make the playoffs. Not saying they can't, but this is a critical game, but there's going to be 4 other critical games after this one. If it was a win and in situation or win and a little help, I might, trend towards that because we haven't been in that situation since we were in college. Looking at the Saturday slate, the Ohio State and the Browns game both mirrored each other last week, where they jumped ahead by a little bit in the first half, a couple touchdowns, and then they kind of took their foot off the gas, made some mistakes, and then reeled them back in for convincing wins. Justin Fields hasn't really turned the ball over a tremendous amount of times this year, but had 2 critical turnovers last week and, almost led Penn State ahead of them in the second half. So I would like to see how he responds to that. Michigan's got a pretty decent defense. So, I like to see how he can not only run the ball and how he can hit his targets on many different passing plays. Chris Olave is becoming one of my favorite receivers for Ohio State. He's probably a little bit below Michael Jenkins and Michael Thomas, but he's the guy who's he's the glue of this offense, receiving wise, and seems to make big plays when they needed it. They were struggling in the second half, and he's the one that got that touchdown to make it a 2-score game. Chase Young, he's coming back from his second game after his 2-game suspension. How's he respond? Is he going to get his 3 sacks like he did last week? Is he going to do more? Is he going to do less? Is he going to be double teamed, allowing another player on the defensive line to have a big game for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't name Joey Galloway as your top wide receiver there. Both teams have a lot of similarities going for them right now. Both high highs for both of the squads. The Browns, they just had a great win against the Dolphins. They beat the Steelers, even though that was accompanied by a low for that game. The Buckeyes, incredible win against Penn State, having pretty much every single college pregame show, ESPN, the Big Noon Kickoff on Fox, Big Ten Network, all there in Columbus. It was a party in Columbus for that game, and the Buckeyes did not disappoint. Drew, what are you looking forward to this weekend? Is there an opportunity for disappointment with either of these teams?
Yeah, there's certainly a possibility for disappointment. Absolutely. The team up north has been playing better ever since the sort of halftime of their Penn State game. They seem to have sort of come together and they've figured it out a little bit. Now you can say this about the last 2 or 3 teams that Jim Harbaugh has coached, though. Everyone was talking about their revenge tour, right? When they started out the season not great, but then turned that on, and everybody thought they were one of the best teams, right? And maybe that was 2 seasons ago where they started out not great. I think last year was the revenge tour where they were hyped about how they were going to blow everybody out. They were going to get revenge. They're on their big tour. and that ended as it should have, right? So there's a possibility of disappointment there. I think that in both cases, the Browns and the Buckeyes have the better team, but In the case of the Browns, they're going into the House of Horrors, right? They haven't won in that awful city in as long as I can remember. I'm sure Eric has the exact date memorized that he can hit you with later here, but I have no idea what sort of team they're going to get because they never seem to show up there. So that one is certainly the bigger risk of disappointment. But on the flip side, if the Buckeyes were to stumble, I think people might be a little more disappointed because we haven't felt that in a very long time.
All right, so we know that the Buckeyes are playing for a national championship. The Browns are playing for something that they haven't tasted in quite some time, and that's just simply the playoffs. The Browns are on this track, seeing if they can possibly win out. Is there anything outside of just winning out? They're going to need some help. Baltimore Ravens have been really hot as of late. Browns do hold a victory over the Ravens. But Drew, let's go to you first here. Man, what is the significance of this Browns win upcoming? And I know we've talked about this before, but are you still holding out hope for a Browns playoff spot here?
Not really. There are 5 teams ahead of them right now for 2 playoff spots, but things begin to change a little bit if they can pick up this victory. So just going through this, just high level here. Again, there's still a lot of time of the season left, but we are rooting for the Texans, the Chiefs, the Patriots, and believe it or not, we are rooting for the Baltimore Ravens from here on out, with the exception of one game. The exception of one game that the Ravens play. There is no way the Browns are going to win this division. The Ravens are 9-2, fellas. So let's focus on what is in the realm of possibility. Eric, I'm sorry, it's just the truth. They're 9-2. It's where we're at. So with Buffalo, they're 8-3. And they are looking like they're probably going to get a spot. They do play the Steelers, and we might even be Steeler fans in that game. The Steelers are 6-5, assuming we can somehow pull off that victory. They go to 6-6, and there's a lot of people that are 6-5 that might be 6-6 for that last playoff spot. So anything is possible at this point. We definitely need to see the Colts beat Tennessee. That will put the Colts at 7-5. So we wouldn't be ahead of them, obviously, at 6-6. But the alternative to that is Tennessee would jump to 7-5, and Tennessee has the tiebreaker over the Browns. So for those of you playing along at home with all of this complex playoff arithmetic, we are rooting hard for the Colts this week, and obviously for the Browns to beat the Steelers. And if those things go our way, we can then sort of pick it up next week and focus a little more on some of the seeding. But definitely need Tennessee to lose as many games as possible, and Oakland.
Yeah, I think my freezing cold take of this season might have been the John Harbaugh both being fired by the end of the season. I wish that was still going to be true, but it is not looking like a great prediction right now. Michigan, they're at 13 right now, 12 right now. Michigan's playing pretty well. And the Ravens, they're looking pretty good. So not looking so good on that prediction. But it's going to be still a battle here between the Browns and the Ravens. Drew enlightening us that the Browns might be rooting for the Ravens to get that playoff spot since they are so far ahead of us right now. But we've got this game upcoming against the Steelers. We still need to win this one coming up. Eric, how are you looking at this game upcoming in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think they just got to stick to what they've been doing, and that is getting both backs involved in the run game and the pass game. Kareem Hunt's been an invaluable wide receiver, considering, they really only utilized 2 guys last week, the 2 guys from LSU. So, that's been excellent. Baker Mayfield did have a pretty bad pass to OBJ. It was well behind him. He can clean that up. I'm not too concerned about that. He's got to keep going on with that. Defensively, Chad Thomas he made some plays. That's going to be critical. But Larry Ogunjobi's back. Olivier Vernon, I hope, is back. Nothing's said one way or the other. If we can get those two guys back and Chad Thomas, hey, maybe he's somewhat living up to his third round draft status. Maybe we can put some pressure on Duck Call guy. And I've heard a stat that he's averaging like 4 yards per pass attempt outside of he's had a couple of heaves, but like for all intents and purposes, he's dinking and dunking. Obviously, it really depends on what Juju Smith-Schuster. Wow, I'm really having a tough time now. Is availability. If he's not playing, I really like our chances to try to rush our front seven, keep them up close to the line of scrimmage, especially with James Conner out, who is still battling a shoulder injury. Really like the Browns' chances in this one if we can kind of force Hodges to try to make these plays and Jalen Samuels or some other person on their offense to try to score points for them. And on the other side of the ball, I mean, like I said, status quo. I understand we have not won there since Tim Couch had a great Sunday Night Football game. I don't remember the day, but I know it was 2003. I think he threw for 2 and ran for 1. And the Browns won by 20 points that night. So if we could have somewhat a performance like that, then that would be excellent. But there's very few times that the Browns heading to Pittsburgh I feel pretty confident in, or at least any type of confident in, and this is one of those times. So looking forward to see what Baker and the offense and the defense can do in Pittsburgh.
Well, the Roethlisberger era might be over. Is it time for a Duck dynasty?
All right,
that will warm us up here because we're going to hit some Thanksgiving Day puns. And a little question here to get into the spirit of Thanksgiving, to get into this family atmosphere and what we're going to be all talking about over the Thanksgiving table. That's what we're most thankful for over the course of this past year. But for this podcast, we're talking Cleveland sports. So, Drew, we're going to start with you here, and we'll set out our Thanksgiving Day table on this podcast and ask you, what has been your most thankful Cleveland sports memory, or the memory that you're most thankful for in this previous year?
Sure. So for the last year, what am I most thankful for over the last year? I don't know if there's something that's most thankful for. My first thoughts were in the draft. I thought we got a great pick with Greedy Williams, and I obviously like the pick of Dylan Windler. So that's sort of where I first went. And then I'm also obviously thankful that the Browns have finally defeated the Steelers and Ravens in the same season. So that's probably my top moment was that beating both of those teams, with the second being some good fortune coming our way, not with the ping pong balls, but and having two really good players sort of fall to us. So that's probably where I'll go. I'm not going to get into the puns because I know we've got just an absolute home run hitter waiting on deck for that. But for me, Thanksgiving is the transition into Christmas, and I like to celebrate Christmas a little early, just sort of not at all how I was raised. We never did Christmas until after Thanksgiving. But as I've gotten older, I've chosen to not deny myself the glory that is a good Christmas carol. So I wrote a little ditty for the podcast, if you'll allow me.
Oh boy.
It goes a little something like this: Rudolph the red-faced loser couldn't even make a throw. And if you ever saw him, you would even say he blows. All of the other pro teams used to laugh and call him names. The Steelers won't let poor Rudolph play in any football games.
Very nice. Get out your Christmas tree. Get the lights on
Absolutely.
the house. We're getting ready for Christmas here. Black Friday coming around the corner. All right, Eric, could you please stuff us with some more puns?
Here we go.
All right.
Sports fans,
I
all
will-
tuning in.
I do have to credit. I did take a page out of Todd Fritz, the one handyman from the DM Patrick show. I used a lot of Cleveland athletes' names with puns, so that's
Okay.
where we're going with. So, as we begin, I got all three teams covered, so don't you worry. No favoritism here. So we got sheldrick, turkey, mashed potatoes, and red wine.
Oh,
Wyatt.
nice.
Yeah, that's a
Wyatt.
strong start.
Wyatt, tell her to pass the gravy. Don't be greedy and take smaller portions, Williams. Okay, so that's all we got for the Browns. So we transition to the Cavaliers and we go with turkey, Thyler, Cook.
It's ridiculous.
Calling everyone to the kitchen because the turkey's ready, Sexton.
What?
What?
Oh, Colin.
Calling them
in.
Darius Gar, Land of Plenty.
Okay.
And Tristan Thompson, breast or thigh. I didn't think he's had his issues with that kind of thing.
Oh my God.
Going non-turkey over there. All right. Now we're
That's
switching.
the ones you have to explain.
Now the next one, I just realized this guy just got picked up by the Rangers today, but I'm still going to use him because he was on the team in 2019. Nick, the stuffing is very goody. Can I have some more green beans, Chang? Adam, cooking a turkey over simber and ashes.
Okay.
And last but not least, Brad, hand me the rolls.
Sure.
Oh, nice.
Sure. Yeah, you hit us with a hand bun. Absolutely.
So there you go. Lot more of that came from, but we gotta limit ourselves to 11, and
Yes.
And he didn't even go the obvious route at Joe Turkey Jones. Everybody, that was too easy for Eric.
it's too easy. We're going modern day. We're trying to keep it fresh here.
I will not ask for a second helping of those puns. All right. Thank you both for getting in the holiday mood here. And now let's get into a giving mood, and let's get into our NFL picks. And we missed last Thursday, which the NFL analysts out there, the gambling websites out there, must have been much depressed with not having Drew's picks for the week on a Thursday. So we thought we'd be plentiful in our picks on Thursday. We're going to pick all three games on Thursday. We'll give the Browns pick. But let's start off with Eric with the picks this week. Eric, how are you seeing Thanksgiving going?
Wow. I guess I'm going to just play the odds and assume that if I take all the favorites, at least two of the three are going to win. So that being said, I'm taking Chicago laying the 3 at Detroit. I mean, the Lions, they are a complete Jekyll and Hyde team, especially with Matt Stafford not playing. So I'm guessing the Bears are going to sweep the Lions here on the first game. Second one, Dallas laying 7 at Buffalo. I'll take Dallas. Not much more analysis other than that. I don't think the Bills are very good. The Cowboys are still fighting for that playoff spot. And the Saints are trying to get revenge on their horrific loss to Atlanta a couple weeks ago, laying 6.5 in the evening game. So I'm hoping at least two of those go my way because not too many games have. So we'll worry about that later. And, Sunday's game, there's been a lot of games that I've gone back and forth. I'm really struggling to find a way that the Browns don't win this game. I guess it's just historically they haven't won there. But hey, Jim Tressel came into Ohio State and we just never beat Michigan. So we find somebody. Maybe Freddie Kitchens is our Jim Tressel. I don't know. But regardless of the coaches, I think the Browns have the better team, more talented, and I expect them to win this game. I think Mike Tomlin calling out Mason Rudolph, it was not a good thing for their locker room, and I hope it causes disarray. And I'm gonna lay those 2 points and take the Cleveland Browns on Sunday.
Two very similar people, Jim Tressel and Freddie Kitchens. All right, let me hit you with my picks here. I like Detroit. I think that opened at -1.5 for Detroit, and they're getting 3. So I'm going to go with Detroit and their experience on Turkey Day. But I'm going to go the opposite way. I think Dallas has given up a lot of points. Buffalo has a good defense. Heck, it could be a Cowboys blowout. But I'm going to go with Buffalo, going against my natural inclination to go with the Cowboys and a big favorite and the experience on Turkey Day. I'm going to go with Buffalo in an upset special. And we're also going to go with New Orleans -6.5. The Falcons are having an off year. I think New Orleans is going to show up, even though I don't really like that spread. And then I will go pretty much every single time that I pick these games and go with the Browns -2. I think facing the Duck Dynasty made a huge change in the spread. And the Browns, I just love their chances. Still have that powerful offense, even though they won't have Myles Garrett. Now, to the main event, Drew Swallen. What are your picks looking like this week? The people want to know.
Just keep in mind, everyone, 12-5. That's how this works. You give me $300. Not me, your bookie, the casino. You give him $300. You bet the 3 games. They hold that 300 until the completion of an NFL week, and then they return $380 to you. Isanye, my accountant, what does that work out to? That's over 26% on your investment every single week. 2-1 every single week. This is just it's a free bag of money, guys. I am trying to give away this free bag of money. So all that I ask of you is next time you see me, you have yourself a 6-pack. Take one out, give it to me, because I've got a 5-pack. That's Booker T. Pick of games for you this week. So we're going to start out with my lock of the week. That's going to be the Colts -2 against the Titans. It helps that the Browns really need this game, but I think the Titans have been playing about as good as they can play. I like them to take a small step back. I think the Colts have a pretty good squad at home. I like them to win the game. I don't think 2 points is enough to scare you away from it. We're going to take the Colts -2. Now we get into our Thanksgiving Day special. I also like the Saints -6.5 for a lot of the reasons that you've already heard. I'm not going to jump into that too much. I think they win this game by a touchdown. I think they have a much better team, and I also like the idea of it being a bit of a revenge game for them. So we're going to do that, and I'm going to take the Bills and that good defense +7 and just hope that they keep it close. I think this has the possibility of turning into a Dallas blowout. Dallas lost the last game. They're usually pretty good coming off that, but I think 7 points is too many. So I'm going to take that 7 and hope the Bills keep it close. And in the early game, I hesitated with this. I think the spread is about right. I'm gonna hope for a backdoor cover on the over of 38.5. That's a really, really low number. One of the lowest that you'll see. Anything under 40 is low, and this thing gets down to 38.5. All you needed to do is score a combined 39 points. That's not that many when you really think about it. So we're going to go the over there, and those are the ones I really like. Now, the last time we picked this, Browns Steelers, I picked against them, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So I'm asking you to sort of read in between the lines here on how I actually think this might go, what the future is telling me. But I'm not going to be the guy that jinxes it, so I'm going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers plus 2 points. It's in Pittsburgh. We hardly ever win there, and I'm absolutely not going to be the guy that jinxes it. So I lost us some money on the Steelers before. I'm happy to do it again if we get a Browns victory, and you've got 4 other games that you're going to get on top of that. And we're just looking to print some more money. It's a free bag of money, people. Just come take it, please.
What a great ending. Drew picks the Steelers. We go into the holiday. We're all very thankful. But seriously, everyone have a great Thanksgiving Day. Thank you guys for joining the podcast once again. It's always great to talk some Cleveland sports.
Absolutely.
And for all the millions of listeners out there, thank you once again for listening. Have a safe drive to wherever you're going this Thanksgiving, and we will talk to you again very soon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Go Browns, go Bucks.